fear in most cases. And one of the most beneficial side effects that I have noticed across the board with almost all abductees is that they become very psychic. The sensitivities are very heightened, and they're very, very spiritually aware. And so even if the encounter seemed to have a negative effect in the beginning and seemed to be terrifying or painful or frightening, the after effects in the long run seem to leave them with a much expanded sense of consciousness, able to be telepathic. Many begin to channel. And so perhaps there are ways to even engender this kind of contact. C. Topaz Wells from Peru is the contactee who says that he was taken to another planet for a few days, and afterwards he was left totally transformed, totally telepathic, totally clairvoyant, able to see into the future, able to almost have contact at will. So overall, I can't say that the phenomena as a whole is negative at all. And of course, the prodigies that I spoke about earlier are an incredible group of people. And the possibilities of what is coming out of their contact and their channeling and their experience is just unlimited. It's infinite possibilities of what we're doing.
I consider myself an interdisciplinary researcher trying to embrace a number of different disciplines to look at any individual phenomenon. I'm also co-director of a new parapsychology program at Rutgers, at Rosebridge Graduate School of Integrative Psychology in California. And we are trying to look at the tradition of parapsychology, which usually has three main components: the study of extrasensory perception, the study of psychokinesis, and the study of survival phenomenon, survival of physical death, and mediumship as it used to be called. We also want to include parapsychology to investigate ufology, or unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial studies. I'm interested in including in parapsychology and in what used to be called survival research, ufology, and particularly the channeling component in ufology, where people today are purporting to have telepathic communication from beings who identify themselves as not only from other planets, therefore being extraterrestrial, but from other levels of reality, meaning, to satisfy my definition of channeling, they do not currently exist on the physical level of reality as we understand it, but they exist on some other vibratory or frequency domain, some other octave of existence. And yet they are able to telepathically communicate with a certain people who are in the physical body as human beings today, called channels, or called contactees, who have had physical contact and then later or before or in between such physical contacts claim to have mental or telepathic or channeling-like contact with these sources.
When I hear the telepathic communication, or when I receive the telepathic communication, it's not one word after another, and it's not any kind of audible sound. It's as if somebody was taking a syringe and injecting instant knowledge in my head. Maybe a total huge concept in a split second of time. And then I try to translate it into our language that I can understand and that others can understand.
Leah Haley has encountered aliens from 5 different races of humanoids, sometimes in her home, sometimes on their vessels. She's taken into the UFO along a bridge of light, where the aliens teach her, mainly using telepathy. During this process, the information will be stored in her subconscious, from where it will later surface at a time the aliens choose.
I remembered asking this woman, "Where are your people from?" And she said to me, "The Pleiades," but you already knew that. I only remember that she told me that her people were responsible for monitoring the world situations, that her people were there to make sure that the world was operating okay, and they did not usually intervene in world affairs, but they did when necessary. And she gave me an example of that. She told me that her people were responsible for stopping total world destruction when the German leader was in control. And then she went on. At one point, she called him one of the Antichrists.
If you extend physics so that you can talk in physics-like terms about the way extraterrestrials as sources that claim to be channeled, where they exist, how their level of reality relates to our physical level of reality with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, and current energy and matter relations as physics currently understands them, then we're left with a quandary of how these beings, let's say they claim to be from Centaurus or Andromeda or the Pleiades or from Mars or Venus even, but not the physical level of Mars or Venus, from more like an astral or an etheric or higher vibratory frequency domain of it, how do they communicate with us? What we're learning in our research and in interrogating the source, how do they communicate with us? What we're learning in our research and in interrogating the sources themselves is that the mind plane, the mental plane, is the same whether you have a physical body or not. If you are an astral level, or let's say 800,000 cycles a second carrier wave you exist upon as a Venusian, shall we say, and you are mentally communicating this moment with me, and I am clairaudiently hearing it in my mind's ear, or telepathically picking up the thought forms from you as a Venusian, shall we say, the communication is allowed because there is a mental plane that runs throughout the known universe on which thoughts move much, much faster than the speed of light. They move at thought speed, which may be near instantaneous. So there is a certain communication stratum and glue that holds together all sentient beings, whether they have physical bodies or not, whether they are human or not, whatever level of evolution they may be on. We all have some kind of a higher vibratory mental domain that we can make waves on that stratum of reality and communicate with each other just the way on this physical level of reality I can make air waves that reach your eardrum and then therefore go into your brain. All this is to say that our research and our conjecture is leading us to the understanding that there are other levels of reality on which waves, so to speak, can be made that are not limited by the speed of light and that are not understood by current physics, and through which various kinds of communications can occur, and also by means of which spaceships, or what we call UFOs today, can move in what we might call hyperspace or higher frequency domains, non-spatio-temporal realms that they can move in and out of. So I see understanding how extraterrestrial vessels work, how they can come from so many light years away so quickly.
On November 20th, 1989, a Russian plane on a scheduled flight was approaching its destination in the Stavropol area when, at exactly 1 o'clock in the morning, the crew informed air traffic control that they'd observed several unidentified objects ahead of them at a distance of about 150 kilometers from the airport. One of them began to approach the aircraft, pointing a dazzling light at it. Suddenly, the object changed direction and disappeared into the night. 1 minute later, it was seen above the runway at a height of 200 meters. The oval-shaped object lit the darkness with a bright blue ray, behind which spread a fiery glow. A minute and a half later, the object disappeared northeast. Russian UFO research has recorded many similar observations. Initially, the object of the research was